Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from F3 Uranium Corp. Please note you can submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Raymond Ashley, President and Director of F3 Uranium Corp., which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol FUUFF, and on the TSXV under the symbol FUU. Welcome, Raymond.
Thank you very much, Matt. So, I appreciate you inviting me to speak. This next slide is our disclaimer that there will be forward-looking statements in this presentation. So this is the Athabasca Basin of northern Saskatchewan, and the green polygons that you see are F3's 20 exploration properties in the Athabasca Basin. Right now, we're in the process of spinning out F4, which is the fourth fission company, actually. I've been involved with fission since the very first one in 2008. But we will be spinning out 17 of our properties. That process is going on in the background, likely to happen sometime in June. What you see, the properties numbered 1, 2, and 3, that it will remain with F3. The reason for the spin out is we're trying to surface value in those other properties. F3 made a discovery a year and a half ago now of the JR zone, which is the red star you see on this map. It's one of the newest high-grade uranium discoveries and characterized as one of the most exciting new discoveries being drilled today, pre-resource discoveries. So properties 1, 2, and 3, everything right around our new discovery, that will remain with F3. Now, we've just recently put out a news release about our recently completed drilling program at PLN. We had a 30-hole winter drill program, and the results of that, we're very encouraged by the result of that program, and it's resulted in several new drill targets for our summer drill program that's actually about to start, likely to start at the end of this week or early next week. So what I'll do now is zoom in on the PLN property itself. Sorry, it's here. So there it is. The PLN property is everything you see outlined in green. It's really comprised of three. It's the PLN project, which is 3 properties: Minto, PLN itself, and Broach. The JR zone discovery made a year and a half ago is the yellow star you see there, along what we call A1 and B1, the A1 and B1 shear zones. The green lines you see on the map, those are conductors. They're geophysical features that help us to locate these faults and structural corridors where the uranium deposits are hosted. So just one thing to point to is the property you see that's highlighted in this lime green. That is a property we swapped with Canalaska. We swapped one of the other F3 properties for this Canalaska property because we're so focused in this area that this property is only 5 kilometers south of our new discovery. And really, one thing I wanted to mention is A1 and B1 shear zones, where, along which the JR zone lens is located, those are northwest trending. So you see they're very large to the south, in the southeast corner of this map, the bottom right corner, you see the Arrow and Triple R deposits. They're most certainly where the next area of development of uranium deposits in the Athabasca Basin will be located. And you can see that they're along a structure that trends northeasterly. the discovery of our JR zone on the PLN property is now on a northwest trending structure. And what that does is that any other northwest trending structures near the JR zone and A1 and B1 now become regional exploration targets because we've demonstrated that there's high-grade uranium on northwest trending structures. So, we were interested in this Athabasca property because you can see a small little green conductor there. We think that might extend onto the this PW property that we've now incorporated into Broach. The reason we think is that the old airborne EM that was flown in 2008 may not have recognized the conductor in that corner because there's a flat-lying mudstone. So we're going to carry out ground geophysics down there to try and see if there is, in fact, another northwest trending structure underneath it. But the winter drill program was solely focused on A1 and B1. We had 2 diamond drills for the 30-hole program. One of them was at the JR zone itself, where the yellow star is, trying still to expand and infill that zone. The second diamond drill, and really the focus of our winter program, was to try and tag in to the next zone of mineralization. The JR zone is a wide zone of mineralization that's fairly shallow at 220 meters depth. The question, often the way these uranium deposits occur, like at Fission Uranium's RRR, is that they are several separate zones of mineralization along a structure. So really, we've been focused this winter on trying to find the next zone of mineralization. So now what I'll do is zoom in and show you what the JR zone itself, where one drill was focused. And that's this. And so now I'm looking down at the JR zone itself. So it's a lens of mineralization about 120 meters in strike length. The dashed line is the A1 shear zone, and the zone of mineralization is within that shear zone at the north end of that shear zone. So really, we still hit this winter some nice wide intersections of mineralization. Hole 137 was 18 and a half meters of mineralization. It still contained this ultra high grade core. In this case, we don't have the assays from the winter yet, but we scan the drill core with a handheld spectrometer or scintillometer, and from the scint counts, there's off-scale radioactivity of 1.25 meters. So we know that still the high-grade core was intersected. So there's this lens, the JR zone lens, is about 45 meters up and down the structure. It has, strike length of 120 meters, and it's near the top of the basement. We really, all the holes you see with the red labels are the ones we drilled this winter. We now think we've defined really the length. We've largely defined the JR zone itself, this first zone of mineralization that we've discovered. So we would have, we believe, enough data to conduct a maiden resource estimate on this zone. When the time, at a reasonable time, we would engage an independent contractor to conduct a maiden resource estimate. Likely, our rough timing with that would be the end of the year. So now what I'll do is step out and show you the whole A1 and B1 shear zone. And there it is. The map I was just showing you of JR zone is in that red box at the north end of A1. So now what you can see is the rest of the A1 conductor, and the B1 conductor is at the bottom of this map. So you're looking at a strike length of about 5 kilometers on this map. So A1 and B1, that structural corridor that hosts these two shear zones, is about 5 kilometers long, which is a very significant strike length. So you can see the exploration holes are, again, that we drilled this winter, are again the ones with the red labels. So we're quite excited because this winter drill program has generated really significant targets for the summer program that's about to commence. There's really 4 separate drill targets that have been came out of the winter drilling. One of them is down here on the A1 conductor, hole 140, was drilled in a gap, an 800-meter undrilled gap along the A1 conductor. And what it intersected was 11,000 counts per second of anomalous radioactivity in the drill hole. That is the highest anomalous radioactivity we've intersected so far anywhere outside of the JR zone mineralized lens itself. So that's quite a significant sniff of anomalous radioactivity. It's a similar thing that we hit in 2019 that led us to go back and led to the discovery of JR. So these sniffs of radioactivity, along with all those other signs, are the signs to uranium geologists like us that that we stand to be close to another zone. So it's a significant hit. We did drill up above and below it, which is the other two holes you see, without hitting any high grade yet. But we will be going along strike to the northwest along the shear zone and to the southeast. So that's one of the targets that's come out. And it's helped us to understand that the other undrilled gaps in the A1 conductor also stand to host lenses, of similar size and shape to the JR zone lens itself. So that's one of the 4 targets. The second target is that green line you see at B1. So the B1 shear zone we discovered in the fall. It was a conductor until we drilled across it. And these holes you see faintly here are the ones that led us to discover B1. What we saw there was really beautiful alteration, a wide deformation zone. So a really intense deformation in the sandstone and in the basement rocks. And that's why we've been, ever since we discovered the B1 shear zone and all the signs in the drill holes we've been saying that we think we're close to another zone of mineralization. We've been saying that since the fall. This winter, what's come out of our drilling there continues to reinforce that we think that's the most likely place, based on the signs in the drilling we've done to date, that we're going to find another zone of high grade. So if you look at all the red labels down there, we drilled 9 holes at B1 this winter, and 5 of those contained anomalous radioactivity, and that's all the red stars. So that anomalous radioactivity is over a strike length of 600 meters. More than that, it's across quite a strike length across the width of the shear zone. So it's not just in one narrow horizon, it's also spread out over quite a width across the geology. So what happened is, in the fall at the north end of the B1 conductor, we found out that there was no sandstone. At the JR zone lens at the north end, there's 60 meters of sandstone. So down at B1 at the north end, there's no sandstone. When we drilled 800 meters south of that, we found suddenly that there was 250 to 300 meters of sandstone. So we knew that there was very likely a cross fault where there'd been a downdrop block. And that's why there was all this sandstone all of a sudden on the south part of B1. So what we know, I work with a team of geologists and explorationists. We've been around. This is the 3rd uranium deposit we've worked on, discovered and expanded. And so we're lucky. I'm lucky to work with a team that's seen a lot of what the rocks and geology and the signs are near these deposits. So we know that where there are cross faults is often what controls where the next pod of mineralization or where pods of mineralization are located. So what we did this winter is decide to try and get closer to where we thought the cross fault would be that had resulted in this downdrop. And what we found there was a very significant wedge, basement wedge, that by reverse faulting is shoved up into the sandstone. And the scale of this wedge is really significant. It's 120 meters. It's something like more than 100 meters. The reverse fault has shoved the basement up into the sandstone. That's what. Now, there is a reverse fault at JR itself. But that reverse fault, where the mineralized zone is only a few meters of throw along that fault. Down here, we're seeing 120 meters. So it's a really significant reverse fault with this basement wedge shoved up. It's the same structural setting. It's structurally similar to some of the biggest uranium deposits in the basin. And yeah, David Talbot is an analyst that covers us, and he has drawn the analogy between that thrust and the structural setting of where the McArthur River uranium deposit is located. That's not to say that there's a huge uranium deposit here, but it is to say that the structure, the amount of throw, is really a very significant feature. Now, our drilling down here showed us that unlike at JR zone at the north end, this structure is cross-cutting. So the cross-cutting structure where it will intersect the A1 and B1 shear zones, those are very high priority targets. And that's, the south end of the A1 shear zone will cross this wedge, and the north end of B1, or near the north end of it, will also cross the wedge. Those will be very high priority targets because the setting is so similar to other deposits in the basin. And now, what we'll set out to do is drill the wedge, drill a few more holes to get the strike of the wedge. We know which way it trends, pin down the trend, and then we'll drill that wedge where it intersects the two shear zones. So that's targets 3 and 4. The fourth target is the green conductor. What we did is what we realized when we saw that the basement block had dropped and there was this much deeper sandstone on the south end, we realized that the old EM we did, ground EM that we did, to actually to have a drill target for the graphitic shear zone, that EM was looking too shallow because we didn't know that the basement was 100 meters deeper there. So we went back and redid the ground geophysics with the proper loop sizes and the distances between those loops, so the proper specifications to energize the conductor so that we could better model it. And what we found is that the conductor is twisted compared to what we thought previously from the old EM. And what that's done is shown us that down at the southern 2/3 of the B1 shear zone, B1, that we think we may have been drilling off to the right side, so in the footwall of the shear zone. So an important target right away is for us to try and actually target to the southwest of where we were drilling so far along the southern part of B1 to see if that will intersect conceivably the main B1 shear zone. And while we've had lots of sniffs of radioactivity and seeing all this good signs of alteration and deformation, and not tagging into high grade yet, this might be the reason why we're off to the side of the main shear zone. So we'll get to test that as well. So, ever since finding B1, we've been excited about the signs that we're close to high grade, and it looks like, that now we have some very exciting targets that have us optimistic about, tagging into another zone of mineralization. That's really the main question that shareholders have. It's the main question that we have. We found this first zone. It's shallow, wide, has this super high grade core, 5 meters of 20% in the middle of an 18-meter wide zone. So how many more of these are here? In other words, what's the total amount of uranium mineralization at and near our new discovery? That's the biggest step change for our company would be for us to find one. And we see really very positive signs that there's another zone nearby. So what I'll do quickly now is show you some quick cross sections. The north end of B1 and the south end of A1. I'll show you a cross section there where you'll see no sandstone. Then 800 meters to the south where you'll see this big drop and 250 meters of sandstone. And then when we tried to drill in between to find the cross fault, this very significant wedge, a basement wedge, which is a perfect structural setting. So I'll show you those 3 sections. This is the first one at the north end of A1 the north end of B1 shear zone's yellow. we're looking north. The orange shear zone is the south end of A1. You can see this long drill hole. It hit both shear zones. That's how we know that they're separate. It also hit 3 to 5 meter faults that were altered, with bleached and clay altered all the way across. So really down here at B1, it's a 400 meter wide zone of deformation, which is really quite significant. So then now I'll step 800 meters south. This is again the fall drilling. And when I step 800 meters south, sorry, if I mention that the sandstone is the little yellow sliver that you see there. So basically no sandstone. The brown above the basement gneiss, the brown is overburden. So now when I step 800 meters south, the yellow is the sandstone, and you can suddenly see there's 250 meters of sandstone. The basement is 100 meters deeper. There's some bold drill holes on this section. They're ones we drilled this winter, and you can see the little faint ticks are colored ticks. That's anomalous radioactivity from handheld spectrometer. And you can see that the anomalous radioactivity is not just in one horizon, it's over quite a width. Those are all very positive signs about being close, potentially being close to another zone. So based on this, we now tried to drill in between to find the cross fault, and this next section is in between, and here's what we hit. And this is this basement wedge. So the scale here is 120 meters. We drilled through the wedge. Not only is it's extremely significant reverse structure, but it cross cuts. So it's really not perpendicular to this page, but parallel to it. And more than that, the hole that we drilled one hole behind these three, just 30 meters, in front, to the north, 30 meters away, and it hit massive graphite, like pure graphite. This massive graphite with this huge wedge is a really perfect structural setting. So I can show you now what the drill core looks like. I'll show you the drill core in the hole in the middle of these three. The target really of where the uranium mineralization would be likely is the bottom part of the wedge. And so I can show you what that looks like, or at the nose of the wedge, but where this wedge cross cuts A1 and B1, that's the target. So we'll first pin down the strike of this big wedge, and then we'll target where it intersects A1 and B1. So I'll show you the core of the middle one, and then the drill core that's 30 meters to the north with the massive graphite. So that's here. This is the drill core of the middle hole. So you can see that the top box is the basement gneiss above the sandstone. So that's what shows us it's shoved up and backwards. So you see the basement gneiss that becomes granite gneiss becomes hematized, and then where this white rock is, that's actually the contact. That's actually basement rocks that are bleached at the contact with this structural unconformity with the sandstone underneath it. That's really the target, is that contact where our shear zones will intersect it. So now I'll show you the massive graphite that's just to the north of that, which is here. And this really is pure graphite, and it's a hole 30 meters to the north. And that graphite is within the wedge. And we targeted here because it was the strongest conductivity from the new EM we did. And this is what we found, is this massive graphite. So that also gives us confidence in the new ground EM that we did. And, that the new rotated conductor axis that might be the main shear zone. So that's really all the targets that have come out of our winter drilling. We're quite optimistic and, encouraged by what we've seen, and totally looking forward to the program that's ahead of us. So we had we're well-funded company. We had $16 million of flow through at the beginning of the year. After the completion of our winter program, we have about 6 or 7 million of flow through remaining. That's certainly all we need to complete the summer drilling that I've just described to tackle these 4 new targets. And now I'm stepping out to show you again the other regional targets near A1 and B1. These are targets that we would get to likely not before the end of the summer program or maybe even next winter, because we want to stay focused on these new exciting targets that are at A1 and B1. And clearly, the most likely place to find another zone of mineralization, the next zone, would be along an A1 and B1. As I mentioned, that's how these deposits often occur. On one structure, there's several separate zones. And that's where we see very positive signs. But if I just speak to this color image, this is an image of resistivity from a modern airborne EM survey that we flew, because the old EM we were working with was historic EM from 2008. So, and this is a very modern survey. It's called airborne MT. What's significant? So you can see the A1 and B1 shear zone is blue. That's because it's a resistivity low. So it's a structural corridor with graphite and sulfides along it and structures, faults. And that means it's a resistivity low. What you see over here to the northeast is, we thought A4 conductor was a short little thing, and that this Hodge conductor you see down there was also a little short thing. And then new MT shows us stands to be a big 8-kilometer long structural corridor northeast of A1 and B1. So that's a really stands to be a brand new regional target. You look to the west, there's this short thing called A3 that is also a parallel to A1 and B1 just to the west. That also is a regional target. And as I mentioned earlier, that PW property is the blank spot you see, and we're going to be doing ground geophysics to try and see if there's a structure there too. Those are all regional targets. Now, as we speak, we've commenced a very large gravity survey. We know that over Next Gen's Arrow deposit and the new discovery they've made 25 kilometers to the south, there's a gravity low. So we've started by trying to develop distinct targets along these structures, these regional structures, distinct drill targets. Gravity survey is what we're going to do first. We started by covering all the lakes. It's a very good big survey that's going to cover this new A4 trend down on the Athabasca swap property, and also along A1 and B1. That, once we get the results of that, we'll do the ice from the ice first, then complete the gravity survey over the summer, then interpret that data and follow that up with EM and conceivably resistivity to develop actual drill targets for us to go and test these other regional features. So there's a lot ahead of us. It's an exciting property. It's an exciting new discovery. And there's the immediate targets we're very optimistic about, that they could lead to the next zone, another zone of mineralization, and that'll be followed up with the ground, completing this ground geophysics to have regional targets at PLN. Really, that's about where we are. That the end of the presentation. There's just quickly about our financial position. You can see that there's at the end of March, there was 33 million in cash. 24 million of that is hard dollars. There was a $15 million strategic investment, a convertible debenture by Denison in our company. That's part of that hard dollars. So there's flow through there, enough for our 7 million for our summer program. And then we're very well funded with 24 million in hard. So that's the end of my presentation. And I would, thank you for